Welcome to my void. You may call me Taylor, Tyler, or Tyler, whatever pronunciation you like. As you may have seen in the title, today I'm drawing my new OCs, Orthros, Meldy, and Gale. I've actually been working on Orthros and Meldy since December, and Meldy especially changed quite a lot, but at early June I decided to speed up the design so I could add the characters to my art fight. Because of that, the design ended up being kinda rushed, so I'm probably gonna have to redesign them again later on. Originally, Orthros was going to be a design for a different story about this demon king who gets a bunch of heroes sent his way by these gods. But in reality, the demon king was the real god, and the gods were his angels participating in a competition to entertain the gods. But as I was designing him, I ended up making a new story, so I made it a new character. Now, on his story, he was originally a human who lived a very miserable life. He used to play this one game for over 10 years, and he was considered the best player of the game because no one could make him drop to second place in the rankings. But when the game got terminated, he got isekai to this fantasy world in the body of the character he played in the game. When he opened his eyes, he was in this forest, in this body he could ever just dream to be at. At first he believed that maybe he was still in the game, but he soon came to realize that's not what was going on. He had to practice how to walk in these new legs he got, and how to use his magic he knew he should be able to use, but not how to anymore, since he no longer had the buttons to press like the game he used to play. Thankfully for him, he had played the game for so long that he had decorated most texts, from dialogues to descriptions, including descriptions for skills, which made it much easier for him to figure out how to use his abilities. While spending his time in the forest, he came by something similar to a rabbit. It seemed to be hurt, with its legs stuck underneath something. The rabbit was very scared of him, but he still used his healing spell to help. After that, the rabbit would occasionally show up with fruits as a gift to Orthros. The rabbit's visits became so common that Orthros decided to name her. Orthros and the rabbit, now named Fang, became companions and spent their time together in the forest, until two Oni approached them. They spoke about how a demon had been kidnapping their people, and how their shaman sent them to this place to find a savior. Unfortunately for them, Orthros wasn't easily convinced, but after much perseverance and undergoing a trial to hunt enough creatures to make a pile taller than Orthros himself, he finally agreed to follow them. There, the leader of the Oni offered their village in exchange for protection. Orthros, as a blood mage, used the blood of the creatures he made the Oni hunt earlier to fight the Demon Lord who came to attack the village. After the fight, he discovered the Demon Lord was keeping the kidnapped creatures in a hideout in the mountains, but the Oni no longer had anything to give in exchange for a favor after giving their village. Orthros, seeing that, said to them, Give me your village, and I will protect this place. Give me your loyalty, and I will protect your families. With that out of the way, they started making their travel plans. But in the middle of that, they had a visit from the guardian fairy of the forest. He had come to ask for a favor. Many of his fairies, including his son, had been captured by that demon as well, and he wished Orthros would bring them back if he found them. With their mission clear, Orthros and a group of Oni made their way to the mountain. There, after many fights, they found many demons, beastmen, and fairies locked inside cages, but those were not all of them. They found out that the demon lord was selling the people he kidnapped to a slave trader from a human kingdom. He brought the prisoners back to the forest and started a plan to infiltrate on the auction house as one of the slaves, killing the traders, saving not only the ones currently in the auction house, but also the ones who were previously bought, leaving a massacre as a message to the kingdom. On a different note though, Meldy, he's the son of the guardian fairy. He was captured by the demon lord and later saved by Orthros. He became curious about Orthros because he was different from what he had learned. He always heard that demons cared little about outsiders of their own kin, but on the way back from the mountain, he saw that no matter who it was, Orthros would always tell them to rest if someone was tired, that everyone was allowed a satisfying meal, and that he would personally care for the wounded. After that, he started visiting the Oni village, at first for curiosity, but after a while he realized he felt affection towards Orthros. Like I mentioned earlier, I have been working on Orthros and Meldy since December, and the design ended being kinda rushed because of art fights. Orthros didn't really change that much since his first concept. He mostly changed the horns in the outfit. At first he had this generic fantasy outfit, and then later I decided that maybe all demons would use Japanese clothes because Onis were the most present ones, but I changed my mind because I wanted Orthros to have a more western style to kinda match Meldy more. Now if there is one thing I really like about his design, it's his cape, because I had this one idea of making his cape not a real cape, and instead it's like a summon, because in this world most demons don't have real wings, they need to summon magical ones, so his wings are his cape. Basically his cape would open up in the middle and become his wings when he needs to fly, and close back into a cape when he doesn't need to, which is much faster than summoning the wings from zero. And I don't know, I really liked the idea, and it was kinda difficult for me to find a way to put it with the Japanese clothes, so that was a second reason for me to go back to a western looking style. Meldy, on the other hand, changed a lot, like a lot. So Orthros hates humans, so his love interest was supposed to look non-human. The idea was that Orthros would have nightmares, and his love interest was going to be this creature. I wasn't sure if I was going to call it a dream eater or a nightmare, but he was basically a Baku, a creature that eats dreams, and basically this dream eater would eat his dreams so he could have a nice night of sleep. But later on I decided it didn't actually make sense for him to have these nightmares, so it also didn't make sense that his love interest had something to do with dreams. So I had to find a different species that was unhuman enough for Orthros, while being human enough for the viewers. In the end I decided to use the fairies, and I wanted to make them a bit more insect-like by giving them multiple hands and multiple eyes, but I couldn't find an eye position that I liked before finishing the design, so I ended just leaving it with 2 for now. I also think fur would be a good addition to him, but I don't know. In any case, his redesign is more going to be a ripple effect of having to redesign his species than anything else. I did think for a while about removing the extra arms because it just makes clothing more difficult to design, but I decided to keep it in the end. He looked too human without it. I actually didn't mention it so far, but Meldy actually likes using dresses too. Fairies don't really have a binary gender, they are all androgynous/intersex. Though they have personal preferences, Meldy in specific likes both feminine and masculine clothes. I really wanted to put Meldy in these pretty western-like style dresses. It ended being one of the reasons why I changed the Orthros from the Japanese clothes, but I think it ended fine. I like what I ended up with, even though I probably gonna change a lot about it later, but that's just how things go. Now, Gale. He's the newest design of the 3. While I have designed Orthros and Meldy since December, this is the first time I draw Gale. Gale was sold by his father when he was 4 years old. The first compliment he heard in his life was he will fetch a good price. He shared a cage with Orthros in the auction house. Orthros saw himself in the boy and offered to adopt him, a offer the boy accepted after seeing how Orthros keeps his promises. He received a name and a home, but he still had a fear of being abandoned. Because of that, he would always try to be the best at what he's doing. Studies, swordsmanship, magic, or even gardening, since Orthros would always look proud whenever he succeeded on what he tried. Gale's favorite thing is griffins. He loves them, he knows everything there is to know about them. He loves them so much, Orthros had a plushie of a griffin made as a gift for him, and he brings that plushie everywhere he goes. Gale learned many things with his teacher. One of those things were lifespans from different races, including the difference of his lifespan and his father's, as well as that the only way for a human to live longer was to become a vampire or a lich. Since that day, Gale had the dream to become a vampire, so he could live longer besides his father. Gale really hates any sort of control over someone's freedom. Even a dog in a leash is enough to make him look at you like you're disgusting. He also doesn't like the word pet, since he and many others would always be told, "You become a good pet for a noble," when they were in the auction house. I made Gale albino because I imagined for him to share a cage with a high-ranking demon, he would have to be considered a special product. Like I said, this is the first time I draw him, so his clothes are not very detailed or anything. though I really like his hair and his face, I will definitely have to redesign his clothes later on. One thing Gale made me think about a lot, and yes, before you ask, I am an overthinker, is what is immortality? Because since he wants to be a vampire, I had to figure out how long does a vampire live, because on vampire stories, they live forever, but that doesn't seem really right? For a story with other creatures and such. I mean, there are so many species that live for a long time, but to live forever? And vampires of all of creatures as well. I mean, they can just reproduce themselves as many times as they want, right? If they lived forever on top of that, then wouldn't the whole world be only vampires at some point? I mean, look at the real world, right? Humans? In the 1800s there were 1 billion humans, and then just like 200 years later we are at 8 billion? Imagine if we never died. How many more would there be? In my story, the longer a creature lives, less fertile they are, but vampires reproduce differently. By biting someone, they can turn that person into a vampire too. I had to think for many days on how to, nerf the reproduction capabilities of vampires. I ended making it similar to my succubus and made it into a skill. Every so many years they can turn someone into a vampire. A vampire is always a lower rank than the one that turned them, and the lower the rank, less immortal they are, as well as less likely to succeed into turning someone else. I think that's a good way to make their reproduction slower, as well as making them less immortal, but it's still a work in progress. Who knows how much I would change about it. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about my new OCs. I know I haven't posted for a while now, but I hope videos like this will help me post more frequently. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.